Welcome back to another episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Jones with Love City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are back with another episode. Tonight's topic is pre-training camp roster breakdown. So we're going to go through every week, position group by position group. I'm going to give you guys a rundown of the guys we have on the team, where they fit, and how I think that group looks heading into training camp. I'll also give you guys some information about if we need any additional help in terms of free agents and who are those potential free agents that can be available. So thank you guys for joining tonight. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I see those views are starting to grow pretty quick. So thank you guys for that. Let's see where we got most people watching that. Welcome to all the people joining us from the DC4L Facebook group. I see quite a few of you guys are watching there right now, so thank you for tuning in. For those of you who are not watching on the DC4L Facebook group, if you get a chance, for you guys watching the YouTube and watching on X, go over to Facebook, type in DC4L. They have two great groups, one public group, one private group. The public group is pretty much open to anyone to join, but it's mainly the admin keeping you guys up to date with all of the NFL and Dallas Cowboys topics. And then there's also a private group, which is strictly for Cowboys fans. So it's a safe space for you guys who want to talk Cowboys, want to ask questions, want to keep track of everything that's going on in the Dallas Cowboys community. We closely monitor that group, so we try our best to keep out outside fans. We also do a great job of monitoring any potential bullies, anybody who's vulgar, profane, or just overall being a jerk. There's about 15 people in the admin group, so we monitor hourly, unlike some of these other groups where you can see the conversations kind of getting out of hand and everybody who joins is able to join and can pretty much clog the group with a bunch of spam. We don't allow that in the DC4L group. So if you guys get a chance, come over, check us out, see all the things that we have to offer. And for those of you who are watching from DC4L, when you guys get a chance during the show, at the end of the show, make sure you guys go over to YouTube, find me at Bluff City Cowboys, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. Your clicks and your likes will help my engagement to help me spread the word to Cowboys Nation. Also, for you guys joining on Facebook, DC4L has a Facebook group also. So make sure you guys go check that out. Also, hit that subscribe button. I don't know if you guys are regulars or not, but once both YouTube channels get to 1,000 subscribers, Amanda has promised that she will give away an autographed Dallas Cowboys jersey. So if you guys can, be sure to go over to YouTube, hit that subscribe button, help us on our path to 1,000 subscribers. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, I see those views are still going up, but those likes are still pretty stagnant. But Sarek Williams, JoJo Serrano, and Kurt Whitmer, thank you guys for starting the engagement train by hitting that like button. For all of you guys who are watching from Facebook, make sure you hit that like button. Help us to get our engagement up. And once again, if you're watching from YouTube or X, go over to YouTube, find me, hit that subscribe button. And for all of my X users, if you guys want to have a chance to give us your thoughts about what we're talking about, one day just go to YouTube, go to Facebook, hit that button. I would love to see who's watching from X, and I would love to get your thoughts on any of the Cowboys topics we're talking about. So before we get into it, as you guys know, this show is fueled by Cowboys Nation. As you guys can see right here, this is backwards. So right here, I got the comments going so you guys can see the comments. And as always, you leave a good comment, we will put it on the screen. So I got to give a shout out to everybody who's joining us so far. DJ Dog, another regular. I always appreciate you tuning in, bringing great comments, keeping me honest when I'm making an error, because on the Fifth Quarter podcast, we're all about giving out the right information and not just trying to give out what I want you guys to think. Got the Lunatic joining us tonight, a regular on multiple Dallas Cowboys shows, also a regular here. So the Lunatic, appreciate you tuning in. We got my guy Jeff joining us, another regular, longtime friend. Thank you for tuning in as always. Sarek Williams looks like a new name. So Sarek, thank you for joining us. I believe you're watching from DC4L. So thank you for being a part of that group. You get a chance after the show, go over to YouTube, find us, Bluff City Cowboys, hit the subscribe button. Diane Painte, I hope I didn't butcher that, but thank you for watching. I think you're watching from DC4L also, so definitely appreciate you tuning in. The Lunatic, talking about several different positions. We'll definitely be talking about that. We definitely want to see Guyton improve more. Also, make sure you guys follow the Lunatics lead. Share this, share it to your favorite Cowboys group, share it to your personal page. Let the people know what we're talking about. Also hit that like button and please sub if you get a chance. I'm going to put my YouTube in the comments. So at any point any point during the show, after the show, if you guys want to check that out, hit that subscribe button. Longtime follower, Sarek Williams, 5 years. So that means you pretty much been with me since day one then, because we started the initial show, the Cowboy Zone, 5 years, my former co-host, and I've been doing the Fifth Quarter podcast for the past 2 years. So Sarek Williams, I apologize. Definitely appreciate you being a long-time follower, and I'm glad that the information that I'm providing is something that you're interested in to continue to keep coming back. Patricia Hargrove, another DC4L fan in the Facebook group. Thank you for joining us also. And Diane says she's joining us from North Dakota. So always great to see fans from around the country. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Tonight's topic is defensive tackles. That's one of the smaller position groups, so this show may be relatively quick. But if you guys have any questions about the defensive tackle group or any other positions, feel free to put them in the comments. Anything Cowboys related, put that in the comments as well. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Got a couple more comments. The Lunatic, definitely a staple of the show. Over under, we get this channel to 1K subs before the week of training camp. That would definitely be a great goal for us to reach. So definitely would appreciate you guys following the Lunatics lead, hitting that subscribe button. I know I'm going to butcher this name. Is it Roke or Roke? Thank you for joining us all the way from Seattle. So appreciate you tuning in. Donald Ford, appreciate you joining us as well. And once again, DJ Dog, always thank you for that support. Let's go ahead and get into the show now. The topic tonight is the defensive tackle position. It's a lot of stuff we can break down in that group. So let's go ahead and just get into it. Tonight, I'm going to give you guys all of the available players we have, where I think their roles are, and just give you guys who aren't as familiar with these guys a little bit of background about who they are and what we can expect from them. So let's go ahead and start off first. I'm going to give you guys all the names of the defensive tackles. So currently, this is who makes up our defensive tackle position group. Yvonne Addison joining us from DC4L. Thank you for tuning in. Greg Spran joining us from New Mexico. I see your question, Sarek, sorry. I will get to it later in the show. Errol Gardner joining us from Houston. Thank you for tuning in as well. The Lunatic, I see your question also. I'll get to that in a minute. So here's our list. We got 7 players listed as defensive tackle so far. Also Digizua, Mozzie Smith, Solomon Thomas, Tommy King. I'm not gonna butcher his name just yet. So right now he's Tommy King. Denzel Daxon. If you guys don't remember that name, I'll give you some information about him. Justin Rogers and Jay Toy Ia. DJ Dog, you listed out your list. You left out Denzel Daxon. 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you left out Denzel Daxon. And I'll talk about him in a minute as well. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's move on and we'll go to the top of the depth chart. And that is our projected starters. So our projected starters for this year are Mozzie Smith, entering his third NFL season, as well as Osi Odigizua, entering his fourth season, coming off a big contract extension to secure him to the team for the next 4 to 5 years. Now, the Lunatic asked the question, first things first, what weight is Mozzie playing at? Seems he needs to be around 320 to 330. That's a great question, the Lunatic. And I know Mozzie's weight was a major point of contention earlier in his career. It looks like his first year he came in supposedly at 330, but by the time we got to the regular season, he was closer to 290, and it definitely showed. You can see a lack of power. You can see a lack of holding up to the point of attack. Over last year, he definitely put on some weight. He looked like he was over 300 pounds last year. Just from looking at him compared to other players, I would say he was probably anywhere from 305 to 310 last year. You definitely saw him holding up a little bit better at the point of attack. He had spurts of showing that tremendous strength that he had coming out of college. His problem is he's always the last guy to come off the snap. So because of that, he allows offensive linemen to get a little bit of leverage on him, and also that kind of takes away from his explosiveness. So even the Lunatic, I know you asked the question, 320 to 330. Even if he plays at the weight last year, 305, 310, I think he should be okay. But he definitely needs to work on getting off the line of scrimmage a little bit better. He's a freakishly strong player, so I don't think adding that extra 10 pounds is going to help or hurt him. He just needs to be able to use that power that he has and get off the snap of the ball a little bit quicker. So I'm definitely excited to see how Mozzie progresses in his third NFL season. We have a great defensive line coach that is going to light a fire under him. We have a great defensive coordinator who's going to give him some hands-on attention. So I definitely expect to see a much better Mozzie Smith. The Lunatic saying whoever told him to drop weight rookie year did him dirty. I agree. That's all a part of Dan Quinn's master plan. He likes smaller guys. Cowboys World, thank you for joining us. He says Mozzie needs to bring down the penalties. I agree 100%. Again, I think a lot of his problems last year were coming out the ball late. When you come off the snap late, you're already behind the 8 ball because, of course, the offensive line already knows the snap count. So because they know the snap count, they already have a millisecond of leverage against you. But now you add to that, as a defensive lineman, you're the last guy off the ball. That's not a good combination, especially when you play a position where you're gonna get double teamed often. So being double teamed, being laid out the snap, you're always gonna be playing in survival mode. And when you're playing in survival mode, that leads to a ton of penalties. So let's just pay attention to that and see if he improves on firing off the ball. The Lunatic saying, watching film with YouTube Cowboys creators, Mozzie played better versus NFC East and later in year. I agree with that also. I think, again, I think he did add weight, and I think it did show in terms of his speed, I mean, his strength. He just needs to work off firing off the ball. So I'm excited to see Mozzie with a dedicated defensive coaching staff who's going to hold him accountable. Charlie joining us. Hopefully we can get Charlie back in front of the camera sometime soon over at Dallas Cowboys chat. So Mozzie's saying he is what he is, average at best. I'm gonna give him. I'm hoping he's average. I'm gonna give him a little bit more credit. I think he can be above average. I just got to see what he looks like under a different regime. I'm not sure if Dan Quinn put him in the best situations, so we definitely got to pay attention to that. We got a lot of stars joining us in the comments tonight. We got Rika joining us. Rika moves the chains. Thank you for tuning in. Also, let's see, Vernon Leland. Heavier linebackers, it would allow D linemen to stunt and blitz. Well, heavier linebackers will allow us to be better inside the B gaps in terms of run defense. I know, and Charlie talks about this quite a bit. If you guys don't follow Charlie on Twitter or X, make sure you go find Charlie on X because he makes great tweets and they're always on point. And he made a tweet a couple of days ago talking about people saying we need big defensive tackles when honestly a bigger defensive tackle doesn't mean better run defender. It just means you have a bigger guy. And to be honest, linebackers make the run defense better more than defensive tackles. Unless your defensive tackle is getting blocked into the secondary, an average defensive tackle with a really good linebacker is still going to be a good run defense. Let's see. Cowboys World saying, I'm not saying anything other than I hope he recognizes errors and corrects them. I like our defensive line coach, Cowboys World. I like the direction that the team is going in terms of their coaches. It seems like everybody's hands on. It seems like everybody is engaged with the players, and it seems like they're really gonna work on correcting mistakes. Because we talked about this a couple of months ago when you talk about Matt Eberflus's scheme, and his scheme is all about moving fast, all about being smart, and all about eliminating mistakes. So I think with the scheme we have, I hope he eliminates some of those penalties, and I hope he works on some of those deficiencies that he had in terms of coming out the ball late. All right, let's see. The Lunatic says D-line coach making D-line run gassers. They're gonna run to the ball and have heavy rotation, in my opinion. Yeah, I definitely could see a heavy rotation on this team. We have a lot of depth at the defensive line group in general, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Mark Anthony says people in panic mode need to wait till this team has pads on and scrimmaging to see where this team truly is. I agree with that also. New coaching staff, a lot of guys who are young are finally hitting those years where they should make their big leap, like Amazi Smith, for example. Um, I think people put a lot of they put a lot on his plate as a rookie because he was a first round pick. Defensive tackles take a couple of years to come around. So this is his third year. We should see, in my opinion, the best Mozzie Smith that we're gonna get. I don't think he's gonna plateau. I think he's kind of reaching his plateau right now. So you may have one or two more really good years to get the best out of him. So this year is really going to be a breaking point for Mozzie Smith. So we talked about the starters. Let's move further back into the depth chart. Um, I know outside of Osa, the defensive line group was a little bit underwhelming. It's only going to get more underwhelming from there. So we look at the free agent signings this offseason, and these are more than likely, as of right now, gonna be your backup defensive lineman. So we have Solomon Thomas, former first round pick of the San Francisco 49ers, um, played for the Jets for a couple of years, very familiar with our defensive line coach. So basically, our defensive line coach started off with the Niners when Solomon Thomas was drafted. That coach went to the Jets. Solomon Thomas didn't get signed by the Niners. He immediately was signed by the Jets, and now our defensive line coach, Andrew Whitecotton, Aaron Whitecotton, my mistake. Aaron Whitecotton is now with the Cowboys, and if you guys listen to his interview when he came here, he said after he played his last game with the Jets, he went and found Solomon Thomas's parents and told them that no matter where I go next, I'm gonna make sure your son comes with me. So they have a great relationship. They have a lot of respect for each other. Solomon Thomas is basically his right hand man on the field. So he's gonna add a lot of experience. He's gonna add some great depth. And I think he's really gonna add some pretty good production because I know you guys saw a lot of the clips that went around of him in OTAs. The guy's ripped. Now, I think fans are over exaggerating about the clips because he's looked like that since college. That's what made him the third overall pick in that draft. But I think he definitely has a lot that he can provide to this team. And just like Jeff says, I can't wait to see him in the rotation. All right. Let's see. Got a lot of comments going through. So let's talk about Justin Rogers next. So Justin Rogers, he should be a familiar name for you guys. Last offseason, well, last draft, I believe he was either drafted in the 7th round or he was an undrafted guy. Um, Former Auburn guy by way of Kentucky. Coming out of college, he was one of my favorite defensive tackles while he was at Kentucky. I don't know why he transferred to Auburn, but Auburn did not utilize him the way they should have because they ran a scheme that didn't fit his skill set. He played in the preseason last year. To me, he looked solid, but unfortunately, because of the numbers game, thank you, Jeff. He was drafted in the 7th round. I knew he was a late guy or undrafted, but yeah. But yeah, thank you for that, DeLunatic. This is why I love this group. You guys keep me honest. Um, I'm kind of going on the spot, and I know you guys are just as knowledgeable as I am about all things Dallas Cowboys. So 7th round guy. To me, he played solid in the preseason and the training camp. He was cut, signed to the Bengals practice squad. The Bengals didn't bring him back, so Dallas signed him to a futures contract, and now he is back with the Cowboys for his second season. Again, for you guys who like big defensive tackles, this is the type of guy you're looking for. 6'4", about 340 pounds, plays with a lot of power. He plays to stop the run. That's what he's here for. That's what he enjoys doing. He showed flashes of that in the offseason last year. Again, we had some really good defensive tackles last year. We lost a couple of them in free agency. So I think that numbers game kind of edged him out. But he's back now with another opportunity to compete at that nose tackle position. And I definitely expect to see him make some waves again this offseason. And once again, Solomon Thomas. Solomon Thomas is probably going to play all across the line. He's going to play some right defensive end, some left defensive end. But I think where he really comes in helpful for this team is he's going to be the backup 3 tech behind Osa. But I think Solomon Thomas is really going to be a leader of that locker room because if you guys listen to Aaron Whitecotton talk about him, and you also listen to Solomon Thomas interviews, you hear a guy who really loves football, really knows the game, and just from their history, he really knows what Aaron Whitecotton wants to accomplish from his defensive line group. Like the lunatic said, your space eaters freeing up our linebackers. All right. Let's go further down the list. Again, it gets more and more underwhelming as we go through the position group. So next we're gonna go to our drafted guys. And I know a lot of you guys were really excited about who we drafted, especially the big defensive tackle, Jay Toia. Now, you're gonna hear his name quite a bit this offseason because when you think about a nose tackle, he's pretty much the prototypical type guy you're looking for. 6'3", 340 pounds, plays with explosiveness, naturally strong, comes from that Polynesian background. So you know you're gonna get a guy who's tough, athletic for his size, going to bring a bit of nastiness in his game. You're gonna probably hear a lot of Domata Peko comparisons. You're probably gonna hear some Haloti Nada comparisons as we go closer to the offseason. But again, remember, he's a rookie. And I said it before about Mozzie. Rookies take a couple of years at the defensive tackle position to learn the game, build NFL strength. So I'm gonna temper expectations on him, but I still think he has a good shot of being a regular in the rotation. And just like Jeff said, Toia is taking shirts this year. I don't know if he'll be the starter. To be honest, if he is the starter, that's kind of a bad thing for our position group. But I definitely expect him to be a guy who's in the rotation. I don't think he's going to be like Justin Rogers was last year and be a solid guy in camp and then get cut. I think he definitely has a position on the 53-man roster. So I'm definitely looking forward to watching this kid throughout training camp just to see how he progresses. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him in those practices against Cooper Beebe because I know they're basically like mirror images of each other, just on opposite sides of the offensive and defensive line. So there's going to be some good battles on the inside between those two guys because Toia has a bit of nastiness in his game, and we all know that Cooper Beebe loves to play nasty as well. So the trenches are going to be really interesting with two young players in training camp. Mark Anthony saying Michael was one of Shotty's most vocal detractors when he was chosen. Here's the link. Who's Michael? Maybe I missed the side conversation you guys may have been having. Just curious. Give me a bit of pretext on that, Mark Anthony. But the lunatics say, yeah, get him in the weight room, get him that off-season peanut butter. I don't think this kid needs any peanut butter. I think he just needs to work on his squats and his squats, his lunges, and his explosiveness. Because I think he has the size. He just needs to work on his strength and his technique. Because one thing a veteran offensive lineman has over a rookie defensive tackle, no matter how talented that defensive tackle is, offensive lineman's technique is always going to be on point. But yeah, I love his game film also. You definitely see explosiveness. I did a full breakdown of him a couple weeks ago. So if you guys get a chance, go and check out that show. We talked a lot about some of the positives and negatives of Jay Toia's game. Next to him is another late round guy. We're gonna call him Tommy King until we get a better pronunciation of his last name. This is another one of those guys who can play 1 or 3. He's 6'4", right above 300 pounds, super long arms, huge hands. His hands are over 10 inches. Arms are close to 34 inches. So you're getting a guy who is able to get a lot of leverage against offensive linemen. The problem with him is he does not play to his size. So unfortunately, Jeff, you beat me to it. I think he's going to be a practice squad guy slash camp body. He'll probably make some. He'll probably make some splash plays here or there because he definitely has some explosiveness to his game. But he's the type of guy who's going to play a little bit of hero ball. He's going to jump aside to try to make a play, and if he's right, it's going to look good. If he's wrong, it's going to look really bad. So just a name I want you guys to be aware of, but don't expect a lot out of him. Sweet Zeke joining us, saying Mozzie is lazy and unlikable. I don't think I can agree with those. We'll see how he progresses in year 3. Thank you for joining us from YouTube, Sweet Zeke. I see those views jumped up pretty quick. So thank you guys for joining us from X. I see you guys really came into the feed at a fast pace. Hopefully you guys will join us on YouTube or Facebook one day so that we can get you guys thoughts on any of the topics that we're talking about. Thank you, Mark Anthony. You said I was referring to Michael Irvin's video he posted on YouTube on being at Legends Day last Friday. He was vocal about not being happy about Coach Shoddy being hired. And the Lunatic provided me with some phonetics. Tommy Aking Basote. Okay. So it's basically pronounced like it looks. So I appreciate you giving me that, definitely. Got Jack Meeker joining us, another longtime follower. Thank you for tuning in. We're at 30 minutes right now. I mean, we're pretty much almost done. So we'll definitely be out of here within an hour. For you guys joining us for the first time, as you know, this show is not only an interactive show, but we're also an efficient show. This is the off season. We're going to give you guys all the information you need, and we're going to let you guys have the rest of your night to enjoy whatever it is you have on your agenda. To me personally, it doesn't take 4 hours to talk about a topic. I get tired of talking. I'm sure you guys get tired of listening. So when you join us at the Fifth Quarter Podcast, most of our shows are going to be between an hour and a half. And if you guys have any questions, once again, feel free to get in the comments if you want to keep the conversation going after I get finished. All right, guys, so let's jump back into it. So far, for you guys who are joining us, we've talked about the potential starters on the defensive line. We've also talked about the potential backups, and we just covered the rookie draft picks. Cynthia Woodard Dunn says, I'm a Cowboys for life. Cynthia, thank you for joining us. I think you're a DC4L member as well. So appreciate your support with DC4L as well as the Fifth Quarter Podcast. The Lunatic asked a great question. He asked, obviously, Osa is in our NASCAR package. Who joins him inside, you think? And for you guys who aren't familiar, the NASCAR package is typically your third down package or your fourth quarter package. The team's down a touchdown. You know they're going to run hurry up. You want to have fast guys on the field can rush the passer. So you're going to put your 4 best, most athletic pass rushers out there. So obviously, Osa's going to be one of those guys along with Micah. The Lunatic asked the question, who joins him inside? Great question, and it came right on time because that leads into the next part of our position group breakdown, and these are the versatile players who aren't necessarily listed as defensive tackles, but I think they are going to give us some snaps on the inside. So the lunatic, I don't know if you're a psychic or you can see my notes, but you were definitely right on time with that one. And Jeff, your comments right on point as well. Um, so we have a bunch of defensive ends. We have Micah, we have Fowler. We just paid a big contract to. We just used a second round pick on Donovan Ez. So between those three guys, we have a really good rotation on the defensive end group. But we have a couple other defensive linemen who play edge. We have Sam Williams returning from a torn ACL, who's been here for a couple of years. And then we also have these two guys. Now, DJ Dog says, yeah, Solomon Thomas has the versatility to play in. I think he's going to play all over the field. So he's definitely going to play tackling in. I also think these two guys are going to play some tackling in also. So first off, we have Marshawn Nealon. Last year, Marshawn was a second round pick. He had a lot of DeMarcus Lawrence comparisons coming out of college, but he's probably about 10 to 15 pounds heavier than DeMarcus Lawrence. D-Law was about 255, 260. Marshawn Nealon came into the league at 270. He plays with heavy hands. He plays with a lot of power. Naturally, I know if you guys were to look him up right now and you read his bio, it would say his weight is about 267. But something you got to remember, teams don't weigh players after their rookie year. So if you look at a weight, you're going to see the weight and the measurables from their rookie year. But naturally, when you have a guy like a Nealon in a program for the second year, he's going to start getting in that NFL program, that NFL nutrition plan, and they're naturally going to gain about another 5 to 10 pounds. So I wouldn't be shocked to see a Marshawn Nealon come to training camp closer to 280 than 270. And because of that reason, I think you're going to see him playing a little bit more on the inside as a possible OSA backup, as well as a defensive lineman on obvious pass rush downs or in that NASCAR package. Because one thing he does well is he plays physical at the line of scrimmage and he plays with a lot of pop in his hands. So I think it won't be a tough transition for him to give us 5 snaps a game as a defensive tackle. Jack Meeker said EZ was standing up like Mike and OTAs. I definitely expect to see EZ playing kind of as your swing edge. I think Micah and Fowler are going to be your starters, and I think EZ is going to be a guy that kind of flip flops. Or if you decide to stand up Micah as a linebacker and rush from the inside, EZ is going to be the guy that replaces him on the outside. Or like DJ Dog said, EZ could be that guy that stands up at linebacker and either rushes or drops in coverage. So he has a lot of versatility. Next week we're going to talk about defensive ends, so we'll definitely touch base on that even more. Let's see. The Lunatic says Jay Tuck from Trench Warfare trains P. Turner. He thinks good things this year for him because he is healthy as he remembers. It's on Big Game James YouTube channel this week. So yeah, I know Big Game James always has the inside scoop when it comes to guys and their personal trainers. So appreciate the Lunatic. I'll definitely be checking that out. Because when I look at Peyton Turner, and I watched probably about half the snaps that he played last year with New Orleans. Again, when you look him up and look up his measurables, you're going to see 6'6", 270. That's from his rookie year. If you go watch him play, he looks closer to 285 minimum. So this is a guy 6'6", 285, 34-inch arms. He's a guy, former first-round pick, plays with a lot of athleticism. He struggled to me for 2 reasons. One, kind of like when we drafted Taco. the Saints drafted him to be a pass rusher. He's not a pass rushing game. He can give you some decent pass rush ability, but he's not built to be a guy who can get you 10 sacks. Secondly, he dealt with a lot of injuries. I know his first 2 years he dealt with some foot injuries, and then I guess trying to overcompensate that led to some knee injuries. But like the lunatic says, he's coming back healthy. Um, he was one of my favorite defensive ends coming out of that draft. Just his athleticism, his leverage, his arm length. I think he's gonna come here and revitalize his career. Now, this is a guy I think you're going to see as a replacement to Chauncey Golston, who we just lost in free agency. So I expect Peyton Turner to be a guy who's heavily involved in the rotation behind Osa. So I know I say he's versatile, but I think you're going to see him a lot more inside than you do outside. But I definitely like Peyton Turner on this team, and I think Marshawn Nealon, if healthy, is going to give us some quality snaps in NASCAR packages and sub packages as well. All right. And Mark Anthony talking about defensive end and linebacker. Make sure you join us over the next 2 weeks, Mark Anthony. We're going to do a full breakdown of the defensive end and linebacker groups also. So I definitely would love to hear your input on those players when we have a little bit more time to go in depth. All right, so let's keep the defensive line discussions going. Another player that's available is a guy that most of you guys probably don't know, probably don't remember him. But Denzel Daxon, undrafted rookie free agent from last season, kid out of Illinois. The reason you don't know him, he's been on the team for both years, but because he originates from the Bahamas, the Cowboys are able to treat him as an international player. So even though he played 4 years of college ball at Illinois, um, the Cowboys get to treat him as if he is an international player. So he doesn't take a roster spot. He doesn't take a practice squad spot. So normally you can only have 90 guys at training camp. Because they have him listed as an international guy, we can have 91 guys because he gets an exemption. And also, normally you can only have 16 guys on the practice squad, but because we get that exemption again, we can technically carry 17 guys. So this is a kid. He's been here for a year. He's gonna get a chance to grow and develop. I would be shocked if he makes the roster because the team would want to take advantage of that international exemption again. So I think he's going to have a chance to come in and kind of play loose and free and get a lot of work in the offseason because I expect in year 3, they're going to anticipate him being a part of the rotation. So this is a guy you guys should be aware of, Denzel Daxon, in terms of training camp, but I don't think he's going to make an impact this year. Now, if for some reason he steps up and he does what I think he's capable of, because I think he's a good player, they may say forget that international waiver and put him on the active roster. But I think he would have to blow them away before they gave up that exemption. But this is another guy you should pay attention to, and another guy who could at least push some of the guys we have in that defensive line group. Let's see. DJ Dog says Tony Casillas saying he noticed Solomon Thomas as a leader type in the meeting at Legends OTAs. Yeah. Again, I talked about that beginning of the show. Solomon Thomas is a proven leader. He's a smart guy. He came out of Stanford. If you guys are familiar with that Stanford program, everybody that comes out of Stanford is going to be physically fit. they're going to be extremely smart, and they're going to be leaders. That is one school in Division One that does not tolerate anything less than being not only a top player but a top person. And again, Solomon Thomas has followed Aaron Whitecotton with the Niners, with the Jets. He knows the system. He was brought here because Whitecotton sees him as his extension on the field. The lunatic. Thomas is that veteran you bring in to teach the younger players how it's done. And again, you guys have looked at the list that I brought up here. Let me just go through it again real quick. Mozzie Smith's in his third year. Also got the big contract, but he's in his fourth year. You look at the backup, Justin Rogers. Rookie last year, played on the practice squad. Then we've got two more rookies who've never touched the field before. Then we have another second-year guy. So you look at the defensive line room, and everybody except Osa and Solomon Thomas are 2 years of NFL experience or less. So I think his voice is going to be tremendous in that defensive line room. I don't know if you guys are familiar with NFL rules, but coaches only have a finite amount of time that they can talk to players. So it's not like high school, it's not even like college where you guys can essentially break out into position groups, go on the field, and then you can get some extra work with your coach after practice. That's not how the NFL works. They have people that watch, and the coaches only have a certain amount of time with players. So when you have a team this young in this position group, you're gonna need a veteran guy who can relay the message that the coach has without the coach necessarily being on the field. And I think Solomon Thomas is gonna be that guy. Even though Osa's the highest paid guy and he's the most talented, he's still gonna need to learn how to run this scheme and learn what Whitecotton wants. So I think Solomon Thomas, from the top of the defensive position group all the way to the bottom, is going to be the most influential person in the room just from experience and leadership. Okay, let's see. Jack Meeker asked, "Do we start training camp week early since Scotty is a new head coach?" I believe the NFL rules do allow first year head coaches to start a week early. So I would probably expect that you do see the Cowboys start a week early. Good question, Jack Meeker. The lunatic adding on to the fact that the CBA even has a certain number of padded practices during the season. 100%. These guys got to find an edge because you don't have the availability of your coaches. DJ Dog, yeah, country strong. It shows on tape. The guy has a lot of raw talent, but to me, he has great traits, but he's raw, and he relies heavily on his traits and just his natural explosiveness, but he gets himself in trouble a lot. Again, Aaron Whitecotton is a great defensive line coach. I don't expect to see him turn a King Basote around in 1 year, but I wouldn't be shocked if he becomes the type of guy who could be at the bottom of your roster and possibly getting some snaps. Denzel Jackson has great measurables, 6'2", 318, seems to have a lot of potential. He definitely has a lot of potential, but again, they have that exemption for him, and unless he blows them away, they're gonna kinda sit him down and let him know, "You know what? We're gonna give you a lot of work in training camp. Year 3, you're gonna get your chance, but right now, just sit back and enjoy the free check for a year." You guys know how the Cowboys always have a couple of guys who end up mysteriously on injury reserve. I think Denzel Jackson's gonna be along those same lines. He's gonna be one of those guys that they kinda put in the back pocket for a year. All right, we got Trina Robinson joining us. DC Nation salute. Thank you for joining us tonight. Okay, Jeff asked the question, any chance we bring in another D tackle or roll with what we got? A great question, Jeff. Again, just like the lunatic, I don't know if you're a psychic or you read my notes, but I'm pretty much done with the guys who are here. So now let's talk about a couple of guys who are available. When I look at the position group, I just gave you guys 7 actual defensive tackle options. And again, outside of Osa and Solomon Thomas, nobody has more than 2 years of experience because Mozzie's going into his 3rd year. So there's a lot of inexperience in that room, and there's a lot of raw talent, just like you guys have talked about throughout the chat. So I do think it's possible that they bring in another veteran just to have an experienced body in case the younger guys aren't developing as fast as Coach Whitecotton and Coach Eberflus would like. Um, let's see. Mark Anthony says, I think the Cowboys will address defensive tackle as the training camp starts. That's a great point, Mark Anthony. And that's something I don't think other content creators talk about. Defensive tackle is a completely different type of position than any other position group. Now, if you're talking offensive line, wide receiver, linebacker, those are either very cerebral positions or they're positions where you need to get in early and build a cohesiveness because one weak link can break the chain. Defensive tackle, in particular, nose tackle, is completely different from that. If you're a nose tackle, you just need to be fat, you need to be strong, and you need to be able to hold up at the point of attack. If you're a traditional nose tackle, they're not looking for you to be a pass rusher. Your only job is to perform on 1st and 2nd downs. So if you're a guy like that, you don't necessarily have to be there for OTAs. You don't have to be there for even mandatory minicamp. Most of these guys are going to show up at training camp. They're not going to be in the best of shape because, again, their job is to be fat, be strong, and hold up the point of attack. So a lot of these guys who are available, they prefer not to sign to a team right now. Because if they sign to a team right now, then they have to go through the weight program. They could be they could possibly have to go in through weigh-ins. They have to keep track of nutrition. They'll be forced to work out. A lot of these nose tackles don't like working out. They like to go do their bench press. They'll do some squats. They'll do some explosive moves, and they'll hit the sled. Outside of that, you're not going to get a lot from a nose tackle. Think about the history. You think about Dalvin Tomlinson. Dalvin Tomlinson always signs with the team around training camp or week 1 of the season. Ndamukong Suh, he spent like 5 straight years not signing to a team until week 1 because he didn't need to. And now you look at a guy like what's the big defense? Jonathan Hankins. Jonathan Hankins is now kind of hitting that phase where he's always going to be a free agent. The week before training camp, up until the 2nd week of preseason, you're going to hear about him signing with some team. He probably won't even practice, but week 1 he'll be lined up and a part of a heavy rotation. So don't be concerned about us not signing a defensive tackle right now. Another one. Thank you, the lunatic. Linval Joseph is another one of those big defensive tackles. Like you said, Trina, they got 3 jobs. They got to be fat. They got to hold up at the line of scrimmage with 2 jobs. If they're big and they can hold up the line of scrimmage, that's all we need them for. And Linval Joseph is another guy on that list where 33 years old. I mean, he's a 33-year-old NFL player. He doesn't want to go through training camp. He just wants to show up, get on the field when they need him, and get in the rotation. Because another thing, I know some of you guys know this, but most of you don't. NFL players don't get paid in the offseason. Now, if they just signed a big contract, they'll get their signing bonus. But outside of any workout bonuses, which some teams give, some teams don't, most of these NFL players are getting $1,500 a week. So imagine if you're a defensive tackle, you weigh 330 pounds, and you bench press 500 pounds already. Why are you coming and running wind sprints and going through nutrition for $1,500 a week? That's why you don't see them in the off season or training camp. The lunatic saying I'm upset we lost on Calais Campbell's. We got the money. I agree with that one, the lunatic. I do have a couple of options for you guys. Some of you guys may know them, some of you won't. Some of you may like them, some of you may not, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Let me go through these comments and then I will give you some potential free agents that you can pay attention to. DJ Dog says until training camp starts, we will not know who or if we see anyone emerge. 100% agree. Let's see. DJ Dog follows that up with rotation is the key to D line working. White Cotton has said we should not see any D linemen getting over 40 to 50 pass rush snaps in a game. I can see that also. I also saw that as well. So, like you said, we're gonna have a heavy rotation. And I just gave you a list of guys. And I think some of these ends are going to be thrown into the defensive tackle room as well. So I definitely see a heavy rotation in defensive line in terms of defensive tackle as well as defensive end. Let's see. Rotation, rotation, rotation. Keep the legs fresh and stop the run. Mark Anthony says we should get Ndamukong Suh off his sofa. I used to think he was a dirty player, but the Cowboys can use some of that right now. I agree. He definitely fits the mentality that we have. And like I said, he normally tries to come around late training camp to the first of the season and say, hey, I'm still in shape. I'm ready to go. So you never know. Could happen. Now, let's go ahead. The last group of the night. Jeff asked the question earlier: do I see us adding to the defensive line group? There are a couple of guys that I want to make you guys aware of who could be some possible options in terms of free agent, in terms of free agency. Now, there are a couple of guys we could possibly trade for, but in terms of free agent, these are the couple of guys that I would think you should look out for. Now, the lunatic, I believe, mentioned Linval Joseph. Linval Joseph is definitely an option. From my opinion, I don't think they will bring him back here. I think if they bring in a guy, they're going to want a little bit more athleticism because we do already have a Justin Rogers. We already have a Jay Toia. We have a couple of guys who can give us some first down reps. I think if they bring in defensive tackles, they're going to want some guys who could possibly be in the rotation for all three downs. TNT Sports, all you need is 330, one tech, take on double teams, open the gaps for the linebackers, just be a solid rotation piece. Christopher Lester, thank you for joining us. Appreciate you tuning in. We're pretty much at the end of the show, Christopher Lester. So if you get a chance when we end, if you want to hear what we talked about, feel free to watch the playback on YouTube. And thank you for joining on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So here are a couple of guys I think you guys should be aware of as we get closer to training camp. Linval Joseph is definitely an option, but just based off of how I think White Cotton wants his defensive line group to be and what we currently have, I personally don't think he'll be a guy we sign, but you never know. So here are the three guys that I think you guys should be paying attention to in terms of possible defensive tackle signings. The first one is Taven Bryan. Now, if you are familiar with our offseason so far, you will know that the theme of this offseason has been former first round picks on the defense. We signed Kaiir Elam. We traded for Kaiir Elam. We traded for Kenneth Murray. We signed Peyton Turner. So this offseason, we've brought in three guys who were former first round picks. Taven Bryan fits that as well. Former first round pick, I believe it was the 2001 draft. I believe he was drafted by the Jaguars. Um, he's another one of those guys like Mozzie who came into the NFL who was just a physical freak, ran a 4.9 40. I believe he bench pressed like 34 times. So when he came in, there were a lot of expectations for him. But unfortunately, no, 2021. My mistake, Christopher Lester. 2021, not 2001. So when he came into the league, again, he ran a 4.9 40. Super strong. Came from Florida. Played with a very high motor. What hurt him coming out of college? It was 2018. I'm way off. It was a 2018 draft. So he's been in the league quite a while. What hurt him coming out of college was he was super athletic, but he had short arms and small hands. But high motor guy, super athletic, runs a 7 in the 3 cone. And for those of you guys who watch the show regularly, you know how I love a good 3 cone runner. Good against the run, but again, former first round pick, teams expected him to be a 3-down defensive tackle. He was not that. He's a solid rotation piece. I believe he's 27 years old, so he still has some good years left. Over 300 pounds, high motor guy, former first round pick, still a free agent. So I would pay close attention to Taven Bryan as we get closer to training camp. I think he'll be one of those guys we bring in. And the lunatic saying we got about $32 million in cap space, more if we extend Michael, so money should not be an issue. Taven Bryan last year signed for $3 million. 29 years old. Thank you, Jeff. He signed for $3 million last year. He's a free agent right now. He's not going to ask for more money. So he's going to be a $3 million or less type guy, training camp body, another good solid rotation piece. The next guy on my list is Austin Johnson, former defensive tackle for the Buffalo Bills. 31 years old, so he's a little long in the tooth, but another one of those big guys, 6'4", 320, extremely smart player, plays with a high motor. He comes from Buffalo, and Buffalo's defensive coordinator runs a scheme that's similar to what I think Matt Eberflus will run. So I think if we brought him in, he's a veteran. I think he'll slide right into the rotation, and there won't be much of a learning curve for him. Now, this is the type of guy, you're not going to get a lot of pass rush from him. This is purely a first and second down player, but he's going to bring you a bunch of experience. So if we go into training camp and we feel like Solomon Thomas isn't enough of a voice in the locker room, I can see them bringing in a guy like an Austin Johnson to help put another voice in the room and also add some veteran experience. I see you. If you got a question, Christopher Lester, feel free to throw it in the comments. This is a open dialogue show, and we welcome any Cowboys questions that you may have. All right, so the last person on my list is Raekwon Davis. Somebody made the comment, TNT Sports. He would be a great pickup. He's only 27 years old, above average run stopper. Now, I believe it was DJ Dawg that brought up Calais Campbell and how he hate we didn't sign him. Well, Raekwon Davis is a Calais Campbell type guy. 6'7", 320 pounds, only 27 years old. The Lunatic, yes, he is familiar with Matt Eberflus because he was with Matt Eberflus with the Colts back in, I believe, 2021. So you got a guy 6'7", only 27 years old, long arms, 325 pounds, one of those freak athletes type guys, super smart. Again, he played with Matt Eberflus, so he knows the scheme. Matt Eberflus is familiar with him. His only problems right now are injuries. Um, Christopher Lester asked the question, didn't Brian and Davis get drafted while Eberflus was in Indy? No. Taven Bryan started off with Jacksonville for his rookie contract. And then he did not sign with the Colts until after Eberflus left for Chicago. So unfortunately, Taven Bryan and Matt Eberflus, their paths did not cross. Same thing for Raekwon Davis. Paths didn't cross with the Colts, but he is familiar with that scheme. 6'7", 320, long arms. He's good against the run, not great. But unlike these other two guys, he is a 3-down pass rusher. So he can definitely be a guy as a defensive tackle. He can give you 40, 50 tackles. He's not going to get a lot of sacks, but he knows how to use his length to get his hands in the air and knock the ball down. He also is really good at getting quarterback hurries. And as you guys know, if a defensive tackle can't get the sack, the next best thing is to get the quarterback moving so those defensive ends can hunt. And I think he does a really good job of that. The only thing we really need to be concerned about with him is health. I think he was dealing with, if I'm not mistaken, like high blood pressure issues last year. I believe he was cut last year from the Colts, and he may have been cut from the Dolphins also as an injury designation. But again, high motor guy, athletic. I think he could provide something to the room if we needed a guy. And the Lunatic, great point. One thing Eberflus is going to do, he's not going to let a team run on him. So I know we think that it's going to be the same old Cowboys. Teams are going to just run on us all day. Eberflus emphasizes that. Go pay attention to his stats with the Colts and the Bears. One thing you will not say is they got the ball ran on them consistently. All right, so that's pretty much all I have for today's show. We're at 1 hour and 9 minutes. Christopher Lester, I know you put the words question up there. Before I get out of here, I'll stay for another minute or so. So if you do have a question, feel free to put it in the comments before I get out of here. The Lunatic saying mandatory mini camp coming June 10th through 12th. Then nothing till training camp starts late July. So yeah, we definitely need some content, and hopefully I can be here to provide you guys a breakdown of all the position groups. Next week, I think we will do defensive ends. So we have a lot to talk about there. And going forward, we'll kind of work inside out. We'll go defensive ends, linebackers. Linebackers is kind of a small group. So we may lump linebackers and safeties together, or we'll lump corners and safeties together. And then the last 4 weeks, we'll go into the offense with offensive line, tight ends and running backs, quarterbacks and wide receivers. All right. The Lunatic asked the question, what do you think would be good stats for Mazi this season for me? So I'm definitely not expecting Pro Bowl stats. So let me Let me just pull up who the Pro Bowlers were for 2024, because one thing I don't want is for fans to have unreasonable expectations. It's great to have expectations for a guy, but I think sometimes us as fans can have unreasonable expectations when it comes to certain players. So let me just pull up who the Pro Bowlers were last year at defensive tackle and see what their stats were. All right. So last year, the Pro Bowlers were Dexter Lawrence, Jalen Carter, Leonard Williams, Quinnen Williams, Jeffrey Simmons, and Justin Matabuke. So those were the 1, 2, 3. Those were the 6 Pro Bowlers last year. When I look at all of their stats, they all averaged about 25 tackles, anywhere from 5 to 7 sacks. So 25 tackles, 5 sacks, that's Pro Bowl level. So I'm expecting Mozzie to be an average defensive tackle. So if he can give me average defensive tackle stats, I'm happy. So I'm not expecting 4 sacks. I'm not expecting 25, 30 tackles. To be honest, the lunatic, now that I really think about it, I'm not as concerned about his stats. I just want him to be a better player. I want him to keep the linebackers clean. I want him to fire off the ball quicker. And to I want him to fight for and earn the starting defensive tackle position. If he does that, I'll be happy. If he only gets 1 sack, I mean, he's a nose tackle. He's not playing on third downs. I'll be okay with that. If he can give me 15 solo tackles, 3 to 5 tackles for loss, maybe 1 sack, I think that's a good year. And this is the most important thing. We do not want to hear his name as much. If he can get in there, like I just said already, if he can get in there, keep the linebackers clean, work on firing out the ball, and do the dirty work that's necessary, I'm not as concerned about the sacks. I just want him to be the best nose tackle on the team. And not because we suck at nose tackle, but because we have a decent group and he just so happens to be the best one out of that group. So that's what I would say. All right, guys, we are at an hour and 13 minutes. The views were continuously going up. It looks like the majority of our viewers were coming from X, as well as my Bluff City Cowboys YouTube channel. So thank you guys, everybody who joined us over there. Everybody from the DC4L Facebook group was kind of going in and out. So everybody who's joined us over the course of the show, I definitely appreciate you guys joining us, leaving a comment, coming in and out of the chat. Again, this show is fueled by Cowboys Nation. So if you guys were not giving me any dialogue, it would be basically me just sitting here rambling for an hour. And I definitely do not want to be that type of content creator. So I definitely appreciate all you guys, all your support, all your great questions. Everybody here, extremely knowledgeable, definitely have a love for the Cowboys, and you all about helping us to get that next Super Bowl. So before we get out of here, for those of you guys joining us for the first time, make sure you join us every Wednesday night, 8:30 Central Standard Time for the Fifth Quarter Podcast. If you guys are members of the DC4L group, you will see that Amanda Foster made a post the other day saying we have a special guest joining us. So we do have a special guest joining us in July to talk some Dallas Cowboys pre-training camp talk. I can't say who it is just yet, but as we get closer to the show, I will throw out a couple of hints and I'll let you guys know who it is once we get closer to it. So make sure you continue to stick with us for that. We got a lot of great conversation as we talk about the rest of the position groups. Once again, thank you guys for joining. Appreciate your support. We're almost closer to real football. So every week the excitement should be building up more and more as we get to training camp and as we get to the regular season. So, as always, thank you guys for watching, and let's go Cowboys. I will see you guys next Wednesday.